The frozen moon had no name that humans could say properly. The aliens called it Varus 4, and that was good enough for Lieutenant Yuna. She had been to many cold places in her 10 years with the Terran Recovery Corps. But this moon was something else. The wind cut through her suit like tiny knives. The ice was so thick that her scanner could not see what was underneath. "I found something," her voice crackled through the radio. "Looks like a ship." Back on the shuttle, Daisu groaned. He was the pilot, and he hated this moon. He hated cold places. He hated salvage missions. Most of all, he hated when Yuna found things, because it always meant more work. "How bad is it?" he asked. Yuna walked closer to the wreckage. The ship was not human. The metal was a strange silver color, and the design was all wrong. Human ships were built in straight lines and hard angles. This ship had curves, like it was grown instead of built. Half of it was buried in the ice. The other half was torn open like paper. "It's alien," Yuna said. "Valori, I think." There was silence on the radio. Then Hana, the medic, spoke. Her voice was very quiet. "Valori? Are you sure?" Yuna understood the fear. Everyone in the galaxy knew about the Valori. They were predators. Hunters. They stood 8 feet tall when they were adults, with silver fur and black claws that could cut through metal. They did not see other species as equals. They saw them as prey, or as threats, or as things that were not worth noticing at all. Humans had met the Valori only a few times. Each meeting had ended badly. "The ship is dead," Yuna said. "No power. No heat. Whatever happened here? It happened a long time ago." She climbed through the torn metal. Her flashlight cut through the darkness inside. There was ice everywhere. The cold had killed everything. She saw frozen plants in broken containers. She saw screens that would never light up again. She saw a chair that was too big for any human to sit in. Then she heard something. It was a small sound. A tiny whimper, like a puppy makes when it is scared. Yuna stopped moving. She listened. The sound came again. From somewhere deeper in the ship. "I hear something," she said into the radio. "Something alive." "Get out of there," Daisu said immediately. "If there's a living Valori in that ship." "It sounds small," Yuna said. "It sounds scared." She followed the sound. She moved through frozen hallways and climbed over broken walls. The whimpering grew louder. Finally, she found a small room in the back of the ship. The door was stuck, but Yuna was strong. She pulled and pulled until it opened. Inside, she found 3 small creatures. They were Valori. That much was clear. They had the same silver fur, the same shape of ears, the same golden eyes. But they were tiny. The biggest one was no larger than a medium dog. They were huddled together in the corner, shaking from cold and fear. Their fur was dirty and thin. She could see their ribs. Cubs, Yuna realized. They were Valori cubs. "Oh no," she whispered. The smallest cub saw her and made a weak growling sound. It was trying to be scary, but it was too weak to be anything but sad. The other 2 just stared at her with those big golden eyes. "I found survivors," Yuna said into the radio. "Valori babies will grow into Valori adults," Daisu said. "We should report this to the Valori Dominion and let them handle it." "They'll be dead before anyone gets here," Yuna replied. "They're starving, Daisu. They're freezing." Hana spoke up. "Bring them back. I'll see what I can do." Yuna took off her thermal blanket. It was the warmest thing she had. She moved slowly toward the cubs, making no sudden movements. The smallest one growled again. The middle one watched her with wide, curious eyes. The biggest one pushed itself in front of the other 2, trying to protect them even though it was shaking. "It's okay," Yuna said softly. "I'm not going to hurt you." She did not know if they could understand her. Probably not. But she hoped they could understand her voice. She kept it gentle and calm, like she was talking to a frightened child. The smallest cub lunged at her. Its tiny teeth sank into her hand. The bite was weak, but it still drew blood. Yuna did not pull away. She did not yell. She just stayed still and kept talking in that same soft voice. It's okay. I know you're scared. I know you've been alone for a long time. But I'm here now. I'm going to help you. The cub kept biting. Then, slowly, it stopped. It let go of her hand and looked up at her. Something in its eyes changed. The fear was still there. But now there was something else too. Confusion. Maybe. Or hope. Yuna wrapped the blanket around all three cubs. They were so cold that she could feel it through her gloves. She picked them up. And they were lighter than they should be. Much lighter. I'm bringing them in, she said. The walk back to the shuttle was the longest of her life. The cubs squirmed in her arms at first, but then they went still. By the time she reached the shuttle, they had pressed themselves against her chest. Seeking warmth, Desu was waiting at the door. His face was not happy. This is a mistake, he said. Maybe, Yuna agreed. The Valori will come for them. They always take back their own. Then let them come. Yuna stepped past him into the warm shuttle. But right now, these babies need food and heat. Everything else can wait. Hana was already ready with blankets and medical equipment. She looked at the cubs with a mix of fear and wonder. They're so small, she said. I didn't know Valori could be so small. The smallest cub lifted its head and looked at Hana. Then it sneezed. Despite everything, Yuna laughed. It was such a normal sound, so small and helpless. In that moment, these creatures were not fearsome predators. They were just lost children who needed someone to care for them. She sat down with the cubs in her lap. Hana brought warm water and ration bars broken into tiny pieces. Yuna offered a piece to the biggest cub first. It sniffed the food carefully. Then it ate. The other two followed. Soon, all three cubs were eating like they had never seen food before. Which, Yuna thought, might be close to the truth. What do we do now? Hana asked. Yuna looked down at the three cubs. The smallest one had finished eating and was now falling asleep against her leg. Its tiny mouth still had crumbs on it. We take care of them, Yuna said. That's what we do. Desu shook his head and walked to the pilot seat. This is going to end badly, he muttered. But even as he said it, he turned up the heat in the shuttle. Just a little bit. Just enough to make sure the cubs would stay warm. Yuna smiled. She knew that her crew was worried. She was worried too. But right now, in this moment, 3 small lives were safe. 3 small hearts were beating. 3 small stomachs were full. Everything else could wait until tomorrow. 3 weeks passed on the ship called Homebound. It was a small ship, meant for salvage work and long trips through empty space. There were only 3 humans on board. Now there were also 3 Valori cubs, and everything had changed. Yuna sat in the common room and watched the cubs play. They had grown stronger in the weeks since she found them. Their fur was thick and shiny now. Their ribs no longer showed. They moved with energy that made her tired just to watch. They need names, Hana said. She was sitting next to Yuna, writing notes on her tablet. As the medic, she had been keeping records of the cubs' health, their weight, their temperature, their eating habits, everything. Valori don't name their young until they are older, Yuna replied. I read about it. They're not with Valori anymore. They're with us. Yuna thought about this. Hana was right. These cubs might never see another Valori again. Did that mean they should live without names? The smallest cub ran past them, chasing something invisible. This one was always moving, always fighting, always causing trouble. It had bitten Yuna 3 more times since that first day. The bites were never serious. They seemed more like communication than attack. That one, Yuna said, pointing at the smallest cub. I'll call Bomi. Hana smiled. Bomi, it fits. The middle cub was different. This one was curious about everything. It spent hours looking at the ship's equipment, sniffing buttons, and trying to figure out how things worked. Yesterday, Yuna had found it inside a storage cabinet, surrounded by tools it had collected. It seemed proud of its treasure. The curious one can be Taeyang, Yuna decided. And the big one? The biggest cub was sitting by the door. It always sat by the door. It watched everything with those golden eyes, alert for any danger. It rarely played. It rarely relaxed. Even now, while its siblings ran around the room, it was watching, guarding. Nuri, Yuna said softly. That one is Nuri. Nuri's ears moved at the sound of its name. It looked at Yuna for a long moment. Then it went back to watching the door. The days fell into a routine. Yuna woke early to prepare food for the cubs. Valori were meat-eaters, and Hana had worked hard to create a nutrient mix that was close to what they would eat in the wild. It was not perfect, but the cubs ate it without complaint. After breakfast, Yuna would spend time with each cub. Bomi liked to play rough games. Chasing, wrestling, pouncing. She had scratches all over her arms from these games. But she did not mind. Taeyang preferred quiet exploration. Yuna would take Taeyang to different parts of the ship and let it examine everything. She learned to lock up anything dangerous or important. Nuri was the hardest to reach. The biggest cub kept its distance from everyone. It ate when food was offered. It slept in the same room as its siblings, but it never sought affection. It never played. It just watched and waited. Nuri doesn't trust us, Yuna told Hana one night. The other two are warming up, but Nuri still sees us as strangers. It's the oldest, Hana said. It probably remembers more of what happened before. The crash. Being alone. Maybe even something worse. What do you mean? Hana hesitated. I've been reading about Valori's social structure. The cubs were alone in that ship for a long time. Weeks, maybe months. Valori parents don't abandon their young unless something very bad happens. Either the parents died, or she stopped. Or what? Or the cubs were rejected, cast out. Yuna felt cold. Why would anyone reject babies? In Valori culture, the weak are left behind. It's how they keep their species strong. Hana's voice was sad. Maybe these cubs were sick. Maybe they were too small. Maybe their pack decided they weren't worth saving. Yuna looked across the room at Nuri. The cub was watching her, as always. But now, she thought she saw something else in those golden eyes. Pain. Old pain, buried deep. Then we'll show them different, Yuna said. We'll show them that they are worth saving. Daesu thought she was crazy. He told her so every day. You're getting attached, he said one morning, watching Bomi sleep on Yuna's feet. That's dangerous. The Valori will come for them eventually. You know that. Maybe they won't. They will. The Valori track their own across the galaxy. They'll find this ship. They'll find the cubs. And then what? Yuna didn't have an answer. The weeks continued. Bomi learned that biting Yuna would not make her go away, so she started biting softer. Then she stopped biting altogether. Now she followed Yuna everywhere, like a small silver shadow. When Yuna sat down, Bomi curled up at her feet. When Yuna ate, Bomi wanted to eat from her plate. When Yuna went to sleep, Bomi scratched at her door until she was let inside. Taeyang had found a new hobby, stealing things. Every day, Yuna found small objects in her room. A stylus from Hana's desk, a wrench from Daisu's toolbox, a piece of wire from somewhere she couldn't identify. Taeyang would present these gifts with obvious pride, tail wagging, waiting for praise. You have to stop taking things, Yuna told Taeyang one day. Especially Daisu's tools. He's getting upset. Taeyang tilted its head, ears perked forward. Then it dropped another wrench at her feet. Yuna sighed and gave Taeyang a pat on the head. Good thief. Very talented. Still have to stop. But Nuri remained distant. The oldest cub was healthy and strong, but it kept walls around its heart. Yuna tried everything. She offered treats. She sat near Nuri without speaking, just sharing space. She talked to Nuri about her day, about her life, about anything that came to mind. Nothing worked. Then Yuna got sick. It started as a headache. Then came the fever, the chills, the weakness. Space sickness, Hana called it, a common illness that happened when the body got tired of recycled air and artificial gravity. Not dangerous, but not comfortable either. Yuna stayed in her quarters for 3 days. She drifted in and out of sleep, too weak to do much else. Hana brought her medicine and water. Daesu checked on her twice a day. But mostly, she was alone. On the second night, she woke to a strange sound. Something was at her door. She heard scratching, then a soft whine. The door slid open. Bomi came in first, moving fast. The small cub jumped onto the bed and pushed against Yuna's side, making worried noises. Taeyang came next, carrying a stolen sock in its mouth like an offering. It dropped the sock on Yuna's pillow and sat down, watching her with concern. Then Nuri entered. The biggest cub moved slowly, carefully. It approached the bed and sniffed Yuna's hand. Then, for the first time ever, Nuri climbed onto the bed. It lay down across Yuna's feet, heavy and warm. A guardian. That night, Yuna slept surrounded by 3 cubs. Whenever Hana came to check on her, all 3 would growl. Soft, warning growls that said, "Stay back. She is ours. We are protecting her." When Yuna's fever finally broke on the 3rd day, she opened her eyes to find Nuri watching her. The cub's golden eyes were different now. The walls were down. The distance was gone. Nuri leaned forward and pressed its forehead against Yuna's palm. Yuna had read about this gesture. In Valori culture, it was the highest sign of trust. A promise of loyalty. It meant, "I am yours, and you are mine." Tears ran down Yuna's face. She didn't try to stop them. "Hello, Nuri," she whispered. "I see you too." From that day forward, Nuri never left her side. Where Yuna went, Nuri followed. When Yuna sat, Nuri sat beside her. When strangers appeared on communication screens, Nuri would stand in front of Yuna, ears flat, ready to fight. Daesu watched all of this with troubled eyes. "You know this can't last," he said quietly. Yuna ran her fingers through Nuri's soft fur. Bomi was asleep on her lap. Taeyang was somewhere in the ship, probably stealing something. "Maybe not," she admitted. "But right now, it's enough." She looked at her 3 cubs. Her strange, silver, impossible children. Right now, it's everything. The message came on a quiet morning, 2 months after Yuna found the cubs. She was in the cargo bay, watching Bomi chase her own tail. The small cub had endless energy. She could run in circles for hours, never getting tired, never getting bored. Taeyang was nearby, carefully taking apart a broken scanner that Hana had given up trying to fix. Nuri sat at Yuna's feet, calm and watchful, as always. Then the ship's alarm rang once. A communication alert. Daesu's voice came through the speakers. "Everyone to the bridge. Now, we have incoming." Yuna's heart went cold. She knew that tone. It was the voice Daesu used when something was very wrong. She walked to the bridge with all 3 cubs following. They could sense her worry. Bomi had stopped playing. Taeyang had dropped its scanner. Even they knew that something bad was happening. On the bridge, Daesu sat at the controls. His face was pale. Hana stood behind him, reading something on the main screen. Her hands were shaking. "What is it?" Yuna asked. Daesu turned to look at her. Then he looked at the cubs. Then he looked back at the screen. "We got a transmission from the Valori Dominion," he said. "They tracked the crashed ship on Varus 4. They know survivors were taken. They're sending someone to get them." The words hit Yuna like a punch. "How long do we have?" "They'll reach us in 6 days. 6 days." Yuna had known this would happen eventually. Daesu had warned her. The Valori always took back what belonged to them. But knowing it would happen, and facing it, were very different things. "Who are they sending?" Hana asked. Daesu pressed a button. A picture appeared on the screen. It showed a Valori female, tall and powerful, with silver fur marked by old scars. Her eyes were like burning copper. Even in a still image, she looked dangerous. "Her name is hard to translate," Daesu said. "The closest meaning would be, The one who hunts without rest. She's an alpha mother, the mother of those cubs. Yuna looked down at Nuri, Bomi, and Taeyang. Their mother. The one who had left them alone on that frozen moon. The one who had not come for them until now. Why did she leave them? Yuna asked. Her voice was harder than she meant it to be. The transmission doesn't say. Maybe the crash was an accident. Maybe she thought they were dead. Maybe. Daisu stopped. He didn't need to finish. They all knew the other possibility. Maybe she had abandoned them on purpose. What do we do? Hana asked. We prepare for her arrival, Daisu said. We do a formal handover. We give the cubs back. That's the diplomatic way. That's the safe way. Give them back? Yuna felt anger rising in her chest. Give them back to someone who left them to starve and freeze? Someone who didn't come looking for 2 months? Yuna. Daisu's voice was gentle but firm. These are Valori cubs. They belong to the Valori. We're humans. We have no right to keep them. They were dying when I found them. They were terrified. I saved their lives. And the Alpha Mother will probably thank you for that. But then she'll take them. That's how this works. Yuna wanted to scream. She wanted to fly the ship in the opposite direction and never stop. She wanted to hide the cubs somewhere that no Valori could ever find. But she knew Daisu was right. The Valori Dominion was powerful. If Yuna tried to run, they would chase her. If she tried to hide, they would find her. And then things would get much worse for everyone. She looked down at the cubs. Bomi was pressed against her leg, making soft, worried sounds. Taeyang had climbed onto a chair and was watching the screen with intelligent eyes. Nuri stood at attention, ears flat, sensing danger. 6 days, Yuna said quietly. We have 6 days. She knelt down and gathered all 3 cubs into her arms. They came willingly, pushing against her, seeking comfort. She held them tight. I won't let anything bad happen to you, she whispered. I promise. But even as she said it, she didn't know if she could keep that promise. The next 6 days were the hardest of Yuna's life. She tried to keep things normal for the cubs. They still had meals together. They still played in the cargo bay. Taeyang still stole things. And Bomi still chased her tail. But everything felt different. Every moment was heavy with the knowledge that time was running out. Nuri knew something was wrong. The oldest cub stayed closer to Yuna than ever. It barely slept. It barely ate. It just watched and guarded, as if it could protect her from whatever was coming. On the 3rd day, Yuna sat alone in her quarters. She was looking at pictures she had taken of the cubs over the past weeks. Bomi sleeping with crumbs on her face. Taeyang proudly showing off a stolen wrench. Nuri pressing its forehead to her palm for the first time. She was crying when Hana found her. I can't do this, Yuna said. I can't just hand them over like cargo. Hana sat down next to her. What choice do we have? There has to be another way. Maybe we can talk to the Alpha Mother. Make her understand that the cubs are happy here. That they've bonded with us. Valori don't work like that. To them, pack is everything. Blood is everything. We're outsiders. We'll never be their family in Valori eyes. Welisa's not passive assent. Then Valori eyes are blind, Yuna said bitterly. Hana was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Have you noticed how the cubs have been acting? Yuna wiped her eyes. What do you mean? They can sense your feelings. They know you're upset, and I think they know why. Hana pulled out her tablet and showed Yuna some readings. Look at their stress levels. Look at their behavior patterns. They're scared, Yuna. But not of the Alpha Mother coming. They're scared of leaving you. Yuna stared at the data. Her heart ached. Cubs bond with whoever raises them, Hana continued. You fed them. You kept them warm. You gave them names. In their minds, you are their mother. Not the Valori who gave birth to them. You. Then how can I let them go? Hana had no answer. On the 5th day, Yuna made a decision. She called Daisu and Hana to a meeting. The cubs were sleeping in the cargo bay, curled up together in a pile of blankets. I'm not going to fight the Alpha Mother, Yuna said. I know we can't win that battle, but I'm not going to give up without trying something. What are you thinking? Daisu asked carefully. When the alpha mother arrives, I want to talk to her. I want to show her how the cubs have changed. Maybe she won't care. Maybe she'll take them anyway. But at least I'll have tried. Daisu shook his head. You want to negotiate with a Valori alpha? That's the most dangerous thing I've ever heard. It's also the right thing to do, Hana said quietly. Those cubs deserve someone to fight for them. Daisu looked between the two women. Then he sighed. Fine. But if the alpha mother decides to kill us all, I want my last words to be, I told you so. Despite everything, Yuna smiled. Deal. The 6th day came too quickly. Yuna stood in the docking bay with the cubs beside her. She had dressed them in small blankets she had made herself, silver fabric that matched their fur. She had brushed their coats until they shone. She wanted them to look healthy. She wanted the alpha mother to see what good care could do. Nuri stood in front of her, tense and ready. The oldest cub knew that danger was coming. Its hackles were raised, its ears flat. Yuna had never seen Nuri look so fierce. It's okay, she told Nuri softly. Whatever happens, we'll face it together. Nuri looked up at her with those golden eyes. Trust. Complete trust. The ship shook as something docked outside. Something big. The alpha mother had arrived. Yuna took a deep breath. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. Open the door, she said. The door began to open. Yuna stood tall and waited to meet her fate. The door opened, and cold air rushed in. Behind it was darkness. Then a shape moved in that darkness, and the alpha mother stepped onto the human ship. She was enormous. Yuna had seen pictures. She had read about Valori size, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. The alpha mother stood 8 feet tall, with shoulders as wide as the doorway. Her silver fur was marked with dozens of scars, each one a story of battle and survival. Her claws were black and curved, longer than Yuna's fingers. Her eyes glowed like copper fires in the dim light. She was the most terrifying thing Yuna had ever seen. The alpha mother looked around the docking bay. Her gaze passed over Daisu, who stood frozen by the wall. It passed over Hana, who had moved behind a console. Then her eyes found Yuna, and then she saw the cubs. Something changed in the alpha mother's face. The fierce expression softened, just a little. She made a low sound in her throat, a deep, rumbling call. It was the sound a mother makes when she finds her lost children. The sound that says, I am here. Come to me. You are safe now. Yuna felt the cubs react. Bomi went stiff against her leg. Taeyong's ears perked up. Even Nuri shifted. Some ancient instinct responding to that voice. The alpha mother spoke. Her voice was like rocks grinding together, deep and powerful. My cubs, I have come for you. Come. For one terrible moment, Yuna thought they would go. They were Valori, after all. The alpha mother was their blood. Maybe biology would win over everything else. Maybe the past 2 months meant nothing. Then Bomi moved. The smallest cub scrambled backward, away from the alpha mother. She pressed against Yuna's legs so hard that Yuna nearly fell over. And then Bomi did something that made Yuna's heart stop. She bared her teeth at her own mother and growled. It was not a big growl. It was tiny and thin. The growl of a cub who was too small to be dangerous. But it was full of defiance, full of fear, full of rejection. The alpha mother went still. Taeyong joined Bomi a moment later. The curious cub had always been braver than its size suggested. Now, it stood beside its sister, adding its voice to the growl. 2 small cubs, making their choice. Then Nuri moved. The oldest cub did not hide behind Yuna. Instead, Nuri stepped in front of her. It planted itself between Yuna and the alpha mother, hackles raised, ears flat, teeth showing. This was not a cub's growl. This was a warning, a threat, a promise. Touch her and I will fight you. The alpha mother's copper eyes widened. For a long moment, she did not move. She did not speak. She just stared at her 3 cubs, who had rejected her call and chosen a human instead. "They fear me," she finally said. Her voice was quieter now, touched with something that might have been confusion or pain. "They protect the human." Yuna's heart was pounding. She wanted to run. She wanted to hide. But her cubs were standing between her and the most dangerous predator in the galaxy, and she would not let them stand alone. She stepped forward, moving past Nuri despite the cubs' warning whine. She stopped only a few feet from the alpha mother. From this close, she could see every scar on that silver fur. She could smell the wild, animal scent of a Valori in her prime. "May I speak?" Yuna asked. Her voice was steady. She was proud of that. The alpha mother looked down at her. Yuna was not small for a human, but next to this creature, she felt like a child. "Speak," the alpha mother said. Yuna took a breath. "I found your cubs 2 months ago. They were in the crashed ship on Varus 4. They were alone. They were starving. They were so cold that I thought they might already be dead." The alpha mother's ears moved slightly, listening. "I don't know why you weren't there. I don't know if you couldn't come, or chose not to. Maybe you thought they were dead too. Maybe there's a good reason you left them." Yuna paused. "But I was there. I found them. I wrapped them in my blanket and carried them to my ship. I fed them. I kept them warm. I stayed with them through the night when they cried." She felt Bomi press against her leg again, no longer growling but trembling. "I gave them names. Bami, Taeyang, and Nuri. I watched them grow strong. I learned their personalities, their habits, their fears. When I got sick, they stayed by my bed and protected me. When I cry, they come to comfort me." Yuna looked the alpha mother directly in the eyes. It was hard. Every instinct told her to look away, to show submission to this apex predator. But she did not look away. "You are their mother by blood," Yuna said. "But I am their mother by choice. Every day for 2 months, I chose them. And they chose me." The alpha mother was silent. Her copper eyes burned into Yuna's face, searching for something. Fear? Deception? Weakness? Then she spoke. And her voice was different. Softer. Older. "You are small. Soft. You have no claws. No fangs. No armor. Your teeth cannot tear meat. Your skin cannot stop blades. In a fight, you would die before your body hit the ground." She tilted her great head. "What could you offer my cubs that I cannot? Why would they choose you over their own mother?" Yuna thought about all the things she could say. She could talk about love, about patience, about the warmth of a blanket on a cold night. But in the end, she chose just 2 words. "I stayed." The words hung in the air. The alpha mother's expression changed. For just a moment, Yuna saw something crack in that predator's face. Something old and buried rose to the surface. Guilt? Regret? Loss? "The crash was not an accident," the alpha mother said slowly. "My pack was attacked. Our ship was destroyed. I fought our enemies while my cubs fled in an escape pod. I thought they would reach safety. I thought other pack members would find them." She paused. "I was wrong." "What happened?" "The escape pod malfunctioned. It crashed on that frozen moon. My pack was scattered in the battle. By the time I gathered the survivors and tracked the pod's signal, weeks had passed. I thought." Her voice broke, just slightly. "I thought they were dead. I thought I had failed them." Yuna felt her anger soften, but only a little. "You stopped looking?" "No." The alpha mother's voice was firm. "I never stopped. I searched every world in this sector. I followed every signal, every rumor, every trace. And then I received word that a human ship had taken 3 Valori cubs from Varus 4. She looked at Yuna with those burning copper eyes. "I came as fast as I could. I came to bring them home. Home." Yuna repeated. She looked back at the cubs. Bomi was still hiding behind her. Taeyang had moved closer to Nuri. All three were watching, waiting, trembling. "Look at them," Yuna said softly. "Do they want to go home with you?" The Alpha Mother followed her gaze. She saw Bomi pressing against a human leg. She saw Taeyang standing with its siblings instead of running to its mother's arms. She saw Nuri still guarding Yuna with every hair on its body raised. She saw three cubs who had already made their choice. "They fear me," the Alpha Mother said again. But this time, it was not confusion in her voice. It was grief. "They were alone for a long time," Yuna said gently. "They were hurt. They were scared. They didn't understand why their mother didn't come for them. And then I found them. And I became everything they needed." She paused. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to take them from you. I just wanted to save them." The Alpha Mother was quiet for a long time. She looked at her cubs. She looked at Yuna. She looked at the small, soft human who had done what she could not do, who had been there when she was not. When she spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. "You stayed. Yes. When they were cold, you warmed them. When they were hungry, you fed them. When they were scared, you comforted them." Yes, the Alpha Mother closed her eyes. When she opened them again, something had changed. The predator was still there, but it had moved aside. Something else had come forward. Something older. Something that understood what it meant to be a mother, and what it meant to fail. "Then I have no claim on them," she said. "Not anymore." Yuna's heart skipped. "What do you mean?" The Alpha Mother looked at her cubs one last time. Then she stepped back, toward the door. "I came to take back what was mine," she said. "But they are not mine anymore. They are yours. You earned them in a way I never did." She paused at the door. "Guard them well, little human. Raise them to be strong. And know that if you fail them, if you hurt them, if you betray their trust." Her copper eyes blazed. "I will return, and it will not be to talk." Then she was gone. The door closed behind her. Yuna stood alone in the docking bay, surrounded by three cubs who were now, officially, hers. Bomi was the first to move. She ran to Yuna and jumped into her arms, making happy sounds, licking her face with a rough tongue. Taeyang followed, pressing against her side, tail wagging. Even Nuri came close, pressing that familiar forehead against Yuna's palm. Trust, love, family. Yuna held her cubs and cried. The Alpha Mother's ship disappeared into the void of space. Yuna watched it go from the observation window, holding Bomi in her arms, while Nuri and Taeyang pressed against her legs. The great silver vessel grew smaller and smaller until it was just a point of light. Then it jumped to faster than light speed, and it was gone. She should have felt relieved. The danger had passed. The cubs were safe. They were hers now, officially and forever. But Yuna did not feel relieved. She felt something strange and heavy in her chest. Sadness, maybe, or sympathy. She had seen something in the Alpha Mother's eyes at the end. Pain, loss, the terrible weight of a mother who had failed her children. "You're thinking about her," Hana said. Yuna turned. Her friend was standing in the doorway, watching her with gentle eyes. "She lost everything," Yuna said quietly. "Her pack was attacked. Her ship was destroyed. She fought to protect her cubs, and then she lost them anyway. For 2 months, she thought they were dead. And then she found out they were alive, and she came all this way. And..." She stopped. Her voice was shaking. "And they chose you," Hana finished. "Yes." Hana walked over and put a hand on Yuna's shoulder. "That's not your fault. You didn't steal them. You saved them. There's a difference." "I know, but I saw her face, Hana. When the cubs growled at her, when they chose me, I saw her heart break." Yuna held Bomi tighter. "I know what it feels like to be alone. I know what it feels like to be rejected. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. Even a Valori predator who could kill you with one hand? Despite herself, Yuna smiled. Even her. They stood in silence for a while, watching the stars. Then Daesu's voice came over the speaker. Hey, if anyone cares, I need help in the cargo bay. Someone stole my wrench again. Yuna looked down at Taeyang. The cub's eyes were wide and innocent. Too innocent. Taeyang, Yuna said firmly. Did you take Daesu's wrench? Taeyang's tail wagged. It ran off toward the cargo bay. Probably to return the stolen item. Or steal something else. With Taeyang, it was hard to tell. Life on the homebound slowly returned to normal. But things had changed. Before the Alpha Mother's visit, there had always been a shadow hanging over them. The knowledge that the cubs might be taken away. The fear that their family was temporary. Now that shadow was gone. Daesu still complained, but his complaints had lost their edge. He no longer talked about the cubs as problems to be solved. He talked about them as family members who made too much noise and stole too many tools. Hana started a new project. She began recording everything about the cubs. Their growth, their behavior, their development. She said it was for science. But Yuna saw how she smiled when Bomi fell asleep on her lap, or when Taeyang brought her a stolen stylus as a gift. And Yuna herself changed most of all. She had always been good at her job. Finding lost ships, salvaging valuable cargo, helping people in need. But she had never thought of herself as a mother. She had never thought she wanted to be one. Now she couldn't imagine being anything else. The cubs grew. It happened faster than Yuna expected. Valori aged differently than humans. And within a few months, Bomi was the size of a large dog. Taeyang was bigger still, its silver fur thick and beautiful. Nuri had grown into a young Valori that stood as tall as Yuna's waist, powerful and proud. But some things didn't change. Bomi still slept curled against Yuna's feet every night. She still made happy sounds when Yuna came into a room. She still got jealous when Yuna spent too much time with the others. Taeyang still stole things. But now the gifts were bigger. A whole toolbox. A broken navigation console. Once, somehow, Daesu's pilot seat. Yuna never figured out how Taeyang had moved something so heavy, and Nuri still guarded. The oldest cub had appointed itself as Yuna's protector. It followed her everywhere. It slept outside her door. It growled at any stranger who came too close. When repair crews visited the ship, Nuri would stand between them and Yuna, watching with those golden eyes until they left. One evening, Yuna sat in the common room with all three cubs around her. Bomi was asleep on her lap, snoring softly. Taeyang was playing with a stolen pen, batting it around like a cat with a toy. Nuri lay beside her chair, head resting on her foot. Daesu came in with a tablet in his hand. "We got a message from Terran Command," he said. "They want to know our plans." "Our plans? We've been out here for almost a year. Most salvage crews rotate back to Earth or one of the colonies after 6 months. They're asking if we want to come home." Home. Yuna thought about the word. She had grown up on Earth, in a small city near the ocean. She had loved it there. The smell of salt water, the sound of waves, the warmth of the sun on her face. But when she thought about home now, she didn't think about Earth. She thought about this ship, this crew, these cubs. What would happen to them? Yuna asked, nodding at the cubs. If we went back to Earth, they'd have to stay on the ship, probably. Or be transferred to a Valori-friendly station. There aren't many places on Earth that could handle 3 growing Valori. Yuna looked at Bomi, still asleep and peaceful. She looked at Taeyang, now chewing on the stolen pen. She looked at Nuri, watching her with those trusting golden eyes. "Tell them we're staying out here," Yuna said. "Tell them the homebound is our home now." Daesu nodded. He didn't argue. Maybe he had expected this answer. "I'll let them know," he said. Then, as he was leaving, he stopped at the door. "For what it's worth, I'm glad you kept them." "Really? Even after all your complaints?" Daesu smiled. It was a rare expression on his face. "They're annoying. They steal my things. They make noise at all hours. But this ship used to feel empty. Now it feels like something else. What? Home, he said simply. Then he was gone. That night, Yuna couldn't sleep. She walked through the ship in the quiet darkness, checking on things that didn't need checking. The engines hummed. The life support whispered. Stars drifted past the windows. She found herself at the observation window again, looking out at the infinite darkness. Nuri appeared beside her. The cub had grown so large now, almost up to her shoulder when standing on all fours. But those golden eyes were the same. Still watching. Still guarding. Still trusting. I never told you this, Yuna said softly. But I was scared when I found you. All three of you. I didn't know if I was doing the right thing. I didn't know if I could take care of you. I didn't know if I would be enough. Nuri pressed against her side. Your mother was right about one thing. I'm small. I'm soft. I have no claws. No fangs. In the dangerous universe out there, I'm nothing special. Yuna smiled down at Nuri. But I stayed. That's the one thing I could do, and it was enough. Nuri lifted its head and pressed its forehead against Yuna's palm. That gesture of absolute trust, given freely, given without reservation. I am yours, it said. You are mine. Forever. Yuna knelt down and wrapped her arms around Nuri's neck. She buried her face in that soft silver fur and felt the cub's warmth against her skin. My children, she whispered. My strange, impossible, beautiful children. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know where this journey will take us. But I know one thing for certain. She pulled back and looked into Nuri's golden eyes. I will always stay, no matter what happens. No matter how hard things get, I will always be here for you. For all of you. That's what mothers do. She stood up and walked back toward the sleeping quarters. Nuri followed beside her, silent and loyal as always. In the cargo bay, she found Bomi and Taeyang curled up together, sleeping in a nest of blankets that Yuna had made for them. Bomi's paw twitched as she dreamed. Taeyang was surrounded by a small mountain of stolen objects. Yuna smiled at her cubs, her family, her home. She lay down beside them, pulling a blanket over herself. Nuri lay down at her back. A warm, protective wall. Within moments, Bomi woke up just enough to crawl over and tuck herself under Yuna's arm. Taeyang rolled closer, pressing against her other side. Surrounded by her cubs, Yuna closed her eyes. The ship drifted through the stars, carrying its small crew of humans and Valori toward whatever adventures lay ahead. There would be challenges. There would be dangers. There would be moments of fear and doubt, but there would also be moments like this. Quiet moments. Peaceful moments. Moments of love and warmth and belonging. That was what made it all worth it. That was what made them a family. In the silence of space, Yuna slept. And for the first time in a very long time, she dreamed of home. Not the home she had left behind. The home she had built. The home she had become.